Tarantula from the Springville Road Library, and I'm here to share a couple of our pets with you today. We have our tarantulas. This is Rosie. She's a pink-toed tarantula from Ghana. And this is Ronnie. He is a Honduran curly-haired tarantula. Now in just a moment I'll get Ronnie out and let you see him a little closer. But first I want to talk to you a little bit about them and some of the really cool, unique things about tarantulas. Now there are many, many different kinds of tarantulas in the world. These two are not friends. They're bugs that eat bugs, so they cannot stay in the same cage together. But we really like to watch them and see some of the interesting things that they do. Now Rosie is a tree spider. So she tends to jump and leap and climb up high, and that's one of the reasons we don't like to hold her. She's also very unpredictable, and she's a younger spider. She's probably around 2 years old, although we're not exactly sure because she was donated to the library. Now Rosie has pink toes, and she also has pink around her mouth when she stands up, and you can see her underside. Now those are things that she is born with. It's not a paint that we put on her or anything special that we do. Rosie has a dark coloration, but these spiders can also come in a brown color or a dark indigo blue color, almost purple. They're actually very, very pretty spiders. Now Rosie tends to climb around in her cage. She likes to stay in her log, but occasionally we'll see her climbing around, and she can climb on the glass. She's kind of like Spider-Man. She could hang upside down on the screen if she wanted to, but most of the time she chooses to stay in the branches or down low on that log. Now Rosie likes to eat a lot of different kind of bugs, and so we usually feed her crickets. But again, since she's a jumper and a leaper, we usually don't take her out. She has these little spinnerets on the back of her body, and those are kind of like knitting needles. They help her to make her web, and when she spins a web, it's very, very sticky. It'll stick to the glass and all the different things in her cage, and it can be a little bit messy, but that's what she uses to catch her food. She likes to stalk around, and she's got 8 legs, so she's really good at climbing, and she's really, really fast. Now if we jump over to the other cage, this is Ronnie. Ronnie is a ground spider. So even though he can secrete a web and he has spinnerets that help him to spin a web, his web is really not sticky at all. Dirt will stick to it, but it won't stick to your hands. It'll fall right off because he doesn't really need that web to catch his food. He's what we call an ambush predator. He'll walk across the top of his food, and then his fangs are folded up. He will pop those fangs out, and he will inject them into the animal that he wants to eat, the bug or the small frog or lizard, and he will drink them kind of like a milkshake, which is kind of gross to us, but bug milkshakes are one of his favorite things to eat. Now Ronnie also has 8 legs, but it looks like he has 10 because he has these 2 little ones in the front, and those are actually antennae. He uses those for sensory information. He also uses those to help him put food into his mouth. Ronnie is a pretty fun spider to have around, but sometimes he gets a little bit of an attitude, so I'm going to try to take him out, but I don't know if he'll cooperate or not. We'll just have to give that a shot. Now in his cage, he has some different things that he can climb on because even though he's a ground spider, sometimes he wants to get up off the ground. And both of them have these little hairs on the back of their legs called articulating hairs. They can use those hairs as a defense mechanism because even though they're venomous spiders, they prefer not to bite you unless it's a last resort. They would rather run away and hide. Now I'm going to try to get him. He's in a weird angle right now, so it may take me just a moment to get him off the glass. We're going to try to pick him up here and see if he'll cooperate with us. Oh, he wants to walk a little bit today. So we're just going to let him walk up the glass until he's ready to be picked up. Now Ronnie is a very, very friendly spider for the most part, but because he's a spider, he creeps a lot of people out. If you notice, I put on gloves, not because I think they're going to protect me, but it really feels weird to have him walk on your hands or your skin, and it makes the hairs on my arms stand up straight and high whenever he touches me. So I prefer to have gloves on so I don't have to feel his little weird fingers. Come on, Ronnie. Now, it's been a while since Ronnie's been out because the branch has been closed, and so he's not cooperating as well as he could. All right, come on, buddy. He also doesn't like to fall. He's very fragile inside, like an egg, so we don't want to drop him. We want to be very respectful of him, so that's why I'm being very careful. Come on, Ronnie. Now, Ronnie is a wiggler, so he often will wiggle around when we're holding him or moving him around, and sometimes he gets a little jumpy, so we're not going to make any sudden moves. All right, there we go. Settle down, Ronnie. It's okay. Now, Ronnie kind of feels like a hairy marshmallow, and it is okay to touch him with your hands, which we do at Grubdown pretty often, but we like to touch him on his back, That makes him feel more secure. But as you can see, he's got those little articulating hairs. Now, Ronnie has never used those as a defense, but if he wanted to, if I were an animal and I were running behind him, my face would be really close to the back of his legs. And he could flick those little hairs into my face or my muzzle if I were an animal, and they would be very irritating. So I'd want to stop and scratch those off my face, and he could run and hide. Now, Ronnie likes to get into dark spaces, and he can actually get into some pretty small spaces, but one of the things that he really likes to do is walk around in his cage looking for the bugs that he eats, which are crickets, and we have several in his cage right now. We usually just put him in there and let him eat when he wants to, but he eats about once every week or two. There's no real schedule, and he just kind of does what he wants to do. Now, Ronnie has a water dish in his cage, and as you can see, there's a sponge in there. For a lot of our smaller animals, we'll put a sponge in their cage so that they don't accidentally fall into their dish and drown. Now, Ronnie has 8 legs, and he can usually right himself if he falls, but just in case, we leave him a sponge as well, so he'll suck water off that sponge, kind of like we drink a drink at home. Come on, Ronnie. Now, Ronnie is a really, really cool pet. He is probably about 6 years old, and we say he, but we're really not sure. Tarantulas, different species of tarantulas can live different lengths of time, but most of them live a really long time. If Ronnie happens to be a boy, usually around 6 or 7 years will be his lifespan. But if he is a girl, then he can live almost 25 to 30 years. Rosie can live about 30 years if she's a girl. If she's a boy, she'll live about 8 years. So different species are different ways. And we really won't know until time passes, because it's really hard to tell if a spider is a boy or a girl. Now, again, we can never put them together because they're both bugs that eat bugs, and since spiders are bugs, they would eat each other, and that wouldn't end very well. But if you can watch, Ronnie's kind of exploring his cage a little bit now. Super easy to set up a tarantula cage if you decide you want to get one. They're actually really interesting pets. When they shed or molt, they actually leave behind a skin that looks like a second spider in the cage. And it's really kind of a cool process, although we often don't get to see it working at the library because they like to do that at night when we're not here. But we do have some old skins that we get out for show and tell from time to time. So if you're ever in the library and you would like to see one, just ask us and we'll see if we can get those out for you. Now, as you can see, Ronnie's balanced right now between the log and the glass. He's trying to decide if he wants to go into his log and hide or if he wants to walk around a little bit more. And spiders are very still a lot of the time, but mostly at night and early in the morning, they like to crawl around and look for their food. Although he's an equal opportunity eater, he'll eat any time of the day if he's hungry, but he mostly likes to hunt in the morning or at night. Now, tarantulas can be found in many, many places in the world, but they have been popular pets in the United States for many, many years. And as long as you handle them carefully and with respect, they're usually very docile creatures. Although some are more aggressive than others, there are some species that they don't sell in pet stores. Tarantulas can be as small as a quarter and as large as a dinner plate. There are bird-eating tarantulas in Africa that eat eggs and small birds, and they're very large spiders, but we don't have those around here. Now, because these guys didn't come from Alabama, we couldn't release them into the wild. That wouldn't be fair to them, and it wouldn't be fair to other animals in our estate. So if you do decide to get a pet, whether it's an exotic pet or a regular pet from just around here, you do need to be responsible for it. And if you ever don't want to keep your pet, you need to find a place for it to be rehomed. You should never release it into the wild. So hopefully you've enjoyed this presentation, and you will come and visit with us again when we do our next set of animals. Thanks.